According to Dorn Lower East Side, what is around us is the Patty Astor tribute. The last weekend we had Patty Astor Memorial that we held here. And if you're not familiar, definitely look her up. But she's everyone. A lot of people know her from the movie Wild Style. That's the blonde woman in Wild Style. But she was very important in the art scene, and her and her partner Bill Stelling started the Fun Gallery in the 80s. Which was really the first place to showcase graffiti and street art. And I think we all know that we could look at something and see what its worth is, but other people, when you take it off, just a wall and you put it in a gallery on a white wall, they can see what we already saw. Mm-hmm. And she gave those artists that opportunity to be seen, So I think especially now when we see how far this has gone, and how international it is, it's like, she is one of the instrumental figures who helped contribute to that. So it was very important that we do something for her. Like, I was lucky enough to know her. And I feel like she would have loved this. And we worked with her family. It was me, Jim Mascarello, and Crime 79 working on this with her family to do this. And we were able to get some of the best artists around, including Diaz. And if you're not familiar, definitely, look him up. He has a very, very rich history. And, he was around, he's known Patty for many, many years. And I think he'll attest that this weekend was a very special gathering of the people that, really mattered to her and whose career she influenced. And it was amazing to have everyone in one space. So it was an honor to have Al Diaz in this show. It's an honor that he's my friend, bugged out life. It's crazy, but it's awesome. So let me give you over to him and maybe let you talk a little bit about Patty and certain things.
She was a revolutionary in her own right, right? And I know that you guys are revolutionaries in your own right too.
Yeah, I'd say definitely revolutionary. She's besides being an actor in underground films, she was the first person to give people like Keith Haring, Jean-Michel Basquiat, Kenny Sharp, Futura, big name, artists who would go on to becoming really like internationally famous. Their first show was here, in the Fun Gallery. Yeah, Patty was no joke. She had appeared in the first Charlie Ahern, who made a film Wild Style. That was the first documentation of that. That's where graffiti, hip hop. I mean, what will later become known as hip hop, where all those elements are shown in the same room. Like there's people. There's a big jam down in what used to be Cherry Hill Amphitheater on the FDR Drive before they trashed that. And there was b-boys. There was guys, painting. The main character, Lee Quinones, was painting Zorro. He was a graffiti artist. And Patty was like, she almost plays herself because she's this uptown person who kind of like introduces like downtown to the like the underground to the forefront, or the collectors, the people that are
mainstream.
Mainstream, yeah. So Patty was that pivotal person, or one of them, but she was one of the first and most important players in terms of introducing a whole group of people that would have not naturally bumped into this underground culture that was going on. So she plays a super important role, and thank God that she opened the Fun. I think it was 1981 that she opened the Fun Gallery. Yeah. But I remember going to many a party there and openings, and it was I think how long was it? 6 years. 6 years? Yeah, but 6 really strong years. And when you think of the people that showed there, I mean Keith Haring, you can't go anywhere without seeing some kid wearing like or Basquiat, who was a friend of mine. one of my biggest claims to fame is the fact that me and Jean-Michel did the same graffiti together. That was a collaboration. A lot of people refer to him as Samo, but it was actually the two of us. Remember, I started writing graffiti when I was 12 because I was exposed to the guys writing graffiti up in Washington Heights. There was not much in the Lower East Side. But anyway, that's a different story. But,
one thing that's nice about this is like Al knew her, and I didn't even realize like Stash, who did the patty over here. And if you haven't looked at that patty through your phone, please make sure that you do, because it's like changes the whole way you see it.
The one in the back with black and white when she's on top. It's very graphic. It does look different.
Yeah, it's
in the photo.
Phone, it's really incredible, and I didn't even realize their connection. And he had sent me this really great photo of them from '91, and then he told me this was actually the first place he showed art was the Fun Gallery, and so everyone on these walls had a special connection with her, even for the artists I wasn't sure about. Like Shiro told me Wild Style was one of the reasons she came here from Japan. Doves has been a giant fan of hers, and we were lucky enough to get her at a show, and they got to meet because he had done a painting of the Lower East Side Amphitheater for the show.
Doves lives in the same building that I grew up in. Yes.
I wonder, you guys, I have a question for both of you. So we know that she brought art that was maybe in the mainstream eyes kind of like subversive, right? Or like subcultural, but she brought it into the mainstream. And I wonder, because she was involved in protests like anti-Vietnam, so she already had a revolutionary spirit. And I wonder what of the spirit of like bringing art that is countercultural, what about the kind of work that she did, what do you guys want to continue to carry, as part of the culture? Are there certain aspects of, what she contributed that you guys feel like you want to continue on? Yeah.
Well, what I love about her, and I think and it took me like 8 years, I think, to say like curator, because I think growing up in New York, that shit just sounds a little uppy-ish.
But you're a curator, though.
But then I earned it. Then I earned it through the work. So I'm used to it more. But there's not really many people in the lineage of Patty is very special, and I definitely feel very honored to feel like I continue it. And the most important thing, and what her whole purpose was, is who represents the community? Who's the most talented in the community? And making sure those people have a place to shine. Because I think we see it now all the time. It's like, you see some artists, and I respect everybody's hustle, but you just know there are some incredible artists who just deserve really, amazing opportunities. So
space.
I think that's always my goal, and that's why I work with a lot of the same artists, because it's like becomes a family, and you believe in what they do, and I think she really also moved that way,
Yeah, absolutely. I like the idea of creating an art family. It's like chosen family, right? To support and push and challenge and encourage. Yeah. What about you, Al?
I think we never really. I think it's always been. I mean, after I'm still in touch with all the same people.
Yeah.
So nothing. It's not like I have to try to maintain something.
It's already rolling.
It's organic. It's been happening for 40, 50 years.
Yeah. I wonder, and I'm not being ageist, I swear, but you are older, and I wonder, because you are an elder, do you feel any responsibility in that way?
Responsibility?
Yeah.
Well, of course. I mean, you're supposed to, maintain, you have to evolve too, but I got stuck in the past because that's kind of boring and it doesn't go anywhere. But it's an obligation to correct history when you read like misinterpretation or people have misunderstandings or believe in this kind of mythology that, because there's a lot of bullshit story when you 90% of the shit we read about like even current history. That's it's bullshit. So if you were part of that scene or that world, it's really important for you to catch somebody on a lie, say, or exaggeration, or say, nah, that's not true, because it just distorts history, and it's I have great respect, and it's one of my biggest pet peeves is misinformation. So I think it's an obligation to set the record straight and respect that history.
That's right. That's right. I'm honestly very humbled to be up here. Like, I don't know about everybody else out there, but this is an incredible showing of so many artists. Like, the amount of work that went into this. Kate, can you tell me about putting together this show?
Yeah, so like I said, we were working with Patty's family, and it was me and Jim Masquerello and Prime 79 or Georgie Benez, and everyone kind of had their things they were doing, and it really was perfect because we were actually working on a show. Me and Jim were working on a show with Patty, so it was like really sad because I was really excited to be able to like be working on something with her.
Oh, before she passed.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, right away, I worked, like I said, in this park before. So I was like, we got to get like some murals done for her because like the Fun Hour was like 11th Street. She was like the queen of the downtown scene. So it's like you want her represented in the right neighborhood, everything. So, but then because Jim was in touch with the family, it kind of grew because they had done a small memorial in California, and they, obviously we need to do something for her here. And it was actually, honestly, it was really beautiful this past weekend. Friday, the artists came in. They started the work on the murals. That night, we were able to do a little screening at Angelica, where we showed some stuff she was working on and really passionate about, along with like old clips. Like Charlie Ahern gave us special wild style clips. Like it was really cool. And then the next day, we had the memorial here. And honestly, it was like, I rarely feel like, you think certain things, it was like a perfect day. It was just really, I was just talking about it. Like, it was like really beautiful. All the right people came out for her. And you could tell that it was like a family reunion in a sense. And, the people who couldn't make it, like Fat Five Freddy and certain people, they all sent recordings like in their voice so we could play them, here, and we could hear them. And I'm like a people watcher, so I was both kind of like on the mic, but also just watching everyone's reaction to hearing the different people, and it's beautiful, something like this, unfortunately, but like she would have loved how it brought everybody together. Like it was really dope. And different generations, because we have, we have Al, and then we had LA2 come, but we have Doves and Shiro, and Mears, who's so important. Mears did 5 points, if you're not familiar. Such an important figure. So, the artists that are on these walls are all like very, very important, and all definitely worth researching and knowing a little more about. And so it was like different generations, and everyone came together, and it was a really special day. So, that's all I could say. And then we're gonna have this art up for a few months, and now that we've completed everything, we might do a small gathering, so definitely, keep looking at First Street Green, and I'm Kate_NYC for like updates. Obviously, Al will be involved as well. And I just want to say about Al, what is so impressive about him is he's been doing it so long, and he is, it's like, you have to change to kind of keep it the same in a sense. Like what he was doing was fresh, and he's always tried to keep pushing it. Like every time he has a show, I always tell him, you guys, him and Nora, they curate the best. Like that's when it's what you do. You're the most critical, and so he's been able to elevate as an artist and do different things and show art in a different way, and makes even like simplistic things really complex and special. So he's so impressive. Definitely make sure you read up and you follow him and what he's doing now too.
Yeah. That's right.
Thank you for that critique.
Don't be shy. So we got Al Diaz in the house, Kate_NYC, and this So these murals are going to be up for quite a few more weeks.
Hopefully like 2 months at least.
2 months. So if we don't see everything today, we can come back.
Yes.
Okay,
And
very
we've been
good.
hanging out here. Me and Shiro live here now, so we'll probably be here one of the days we come by.
So we might get the present of your presence again if we come back here. Okay, amazing. I wonder if any. Can I open it up to questions? Does anybody have a question that they would like to ask these beautiful humans? Yes, please. Loud if you could. Hey Al.
Question. Was there ever a moment for you at the height of your, you can hear me, was there ever a moment for you at the height of your hexagonizing, just like running around the city, where you realized you were part of a greater conversation? Was there like a moment that you went to?
Absolutely not. We were in the minute. I was 15 at the height. It was 1974. That was the best, the strongest year as far as I was concerned. And I was so not concerned with like anything in the future. I was 15 years old. So
There are no consequences.
Some people will answer that question and say, "Oh yeah, we saw this was going to be a worldwide." As far as I'm concerned, that's bullshit. Because we're having too much fun. I mean, also the whole thing of imagine. It's like I used, the famous photograph of all the jazz musicians in Harlem. Like, imagine. It's like somebody once said, "Yo, we should take a photo like that." I'm like, bro, if you try to plan something to be epic, that shit is gonna fail right from the giddy up, because it's gotta be organic. That shit happened. It happened, right? But it has. I did do a show called City of Kings that was celebrating the fact that it was a kids' culture. The average graffiti artist was from the age of like 12 to 16.
Wow.
You aged out when you were 16, nobody, now people are writing in their 40s. That shit would have never occurred back then. It wasn't a thing. But the point is that it was this huge global phenomena that has spawned like billion-dollar industry, like spray paint, Montana, all kinds of technology for graffiti and for a street, slash street art. But it was created. The jump start came from a bunch of kids. So imagine like a street culture that becomes a global phenomenon. You can't go anywhere on planet Earth and not see some throw up somewhere. It's insane. So there's something to behold about that this shit was started by kids.
That's like, I think that goes for all the elements. Because look at breaking right now. Going to the Olympics. Like it's crazy right now what's happening. So I think what's important is like to make sure people like everyone, like you said, is make sure people actually know the history. You know what I mean? It's so important because you see where it is, but you want to make sure just because it wasn't as big, the people you'd honor now because they're making important things, like those people who made this happen, like especially with hip hop, when like Al said, it's not like he was getting rewarded for it. It was really for the love.
That's right.
It's like you got to make sure those people are talked about.
Respect.
Because the fact is that the real story is always far more interesting than the consumer version.
The told story.
Yeah, it's always and it's more complex and it's never so cut and dry and simple. People like the industry will always oversimplify a history because it's easy to understand. Most people, but the fact is that all, those things occur in such a complex and convoluted sort of way that it's hard to, unless you see what's happening. Like, because not every graffiti artist was a b-boy or some guys liked heavy metal. You know what I'm saying? But to oversimplify it, it's just like everybody. It's one big thing. But anyway, it's the real story is far more interesting than the
I always say, I think that like when it comes to the music, we know the stories of like the different artists, but when it comes to other elements, when it comes to graffiti, breaking, there's usually some envelope like movie about like all of it, but not like the individuals who really contributed. And because they didn't document, like now, it's like we're lucky to have the documentaries we did, but they didn't cover everybody. So we know about certain artists, right? But we know there's a lot of other artists who were very influential, but we just didn't have the documentation then to cover those. So we lucky Joe Conzo, we have so much of Cold Crush, but we know there's a lot of other groups like that didn't have a Joe Conzo. So that's why, again, I think especially like make sure those people get, the recognition. Like one nice thing is like Grand Wizard Theodore is someone who, lucky enough to call a friend, I've been working with him on a bunch of events for many years. And when I told him about Patty, and then I'll stop talking, but I'll end it with the Patty thing that's here. He just broke into like, she was always happy, and he's like, now when she came up, she was just cool, and she just was like, no one's ever been like that with us, and she just became our sister. She was really our sister. And so, it was like beautiful. He was supposed to come and speak, he didn't get to, unfortunately, but she was really special to a lot of people, so this is I hope now maybe you appreciate the art maybe just a little, knowing a little more, and definitely, look her up. She's worthy.
Can I ask a question? So one of the things that's always been interesting to me, and most interesting that graffiti you just touched on, that graffiti writers listen to all a bunch of different things for a bunch of different cultures. I'd love to hear your experience growing up in this neighborhood and the confluence of cultures, because you had immigrants, you had Ukrainians and Poles and Puerto Ricans and artists and Ivy League kids who came. I'd love to hear about the community that Patty operated in that allowed you guys to come together.
When I grew up here, there was a little prior to Patty's, that was in the 80s mostly, and I grew up here in the 60s and 70s. So this was kind of like, especially Avenue D wasn't a neighborhood that you wanted to move to. Mm-hmm. It was like the kind of place you're supposed to move out of. People get thrown off rooftops and shit like that. All the kids I grew up with are gone. Like none of them are alive, basically. And it was kind of like if you were stuck on the Ave, as we called it, that was your whole world, But I was lucky enough to have some kind of precocious sensibility, and the whole city was my backyard, Yeah, by that, in high school I was, you just explore, you don't just want to stay in the projects, because it's very limiting. Everybody I know that stayed in the projects is gone, and they were my friends, the kids I grew up with. By the 80s, the neighborhood was like, a lot of buildings were burnt out. A lot of, you could get an apartment for $65 a month, So that invited a whole generation of people from other places. Patty was from Ohio, right? And a lot of other people that came into New York that culturally changed and uplifted New York were from other places. But it was toe up, as we say, right? It was like fucking, my mother, finally moved us to Brooklyn when I was 15, because, we were stepping over bodies, And seriously, there was a dude that OD'd in front of my door. And I remember my mother putting ice down his pants and shit like that to bring him. She saved him. But that was every day, It was like, I heard one of my neighbors kill her husband, bang, 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 3 shots when I was 5 years old. That was, in the hallway, right? I didn't see it, I heard it. Anyway, that was what the Lower East Side was like. This shit was rough. It was like any other, it was like the South Bronx, it was like El Barrio, it was like the Los Cutters, the Williamsburg on the South Side, That's what. These were like sister neighborhoods. If you put somebody, like, you just moved them from one spot to the other, you couldn't tell where they were, because it was basically the same, But in the 80s, when it had reached a all-time, like, it was burnt, a lot of shit, empty blocks, 8th Street, 9th Street, empty, like it looked like Hiroshima. And people started moving in. And that's not the gentry yet, This is the artists, people trying to and then doing stuff, and then more people come, because people are like, we're pack animals, We like to be with other people that are doing the same thing, and Of course, who comes after that? When you make an area cool, guess who follows you? The
Rich
developers.
people. Mm-hmm.
No, the developers. And they're going to buy up buildings, and they're going to make, now that you made it cool to be there, they're going to use that and you know, and chase your ass out of there, even
Drag
though you're
up
the
the
one that
rents.
made it cool. Drag up the rents, bring in a whole influx of other people. And that's what happened here and every other fucking neighborhood, not only in New York City, but on planet Earth. Because you go to Barcelona, same shit. You go to fucking Toronto, same shit. It's so yeah.
Sorry. Didn't mean to talk as I
Just two things. I know I said I was going to say anything else. I'm going to say two things real fast. Like, one beautiful thing about hip-hop music, right, is we know some of the best hip-hop songs came from a rock song, came from a country song, came from, you know, because of the way some of the producers have used sampling, especially the best, where it's, you know, not the abuse of the, you know, but really, I mean, it's a beautiful thing. And the beautiful thing about hip-hop culture is that it does take something and, you know, shows something else totally you can do with it. So I think, you know, it's fitting that there's different musical genres they did when they were, you know, when, you know, different graffiti artists listened to it. And, you know, it's like a testament to how all-inclusive hip-hop actually is, you know. And I'll also say the beautiful thing about that neighborhood now, and like C and D, is it's like one of the last neighborhoods in New York where it really feels like New York. Like, I have friends over there, and I love going over there. You know, one of my favorite places to go is 151, just to be in that neighborhood and feel that feeling growing up here that I felt. So, you know, now it's crazy that now anyone who lives there is so lucky to live there.
Well, I'm very grateful for this park, number one, because it feels like a place that still, some of that, the culture still is being preserved, you know, like the fact that this park exists, people had to make sure that this park was preserved and meant to be a public space so that we can have this gathering here today. So